life is today, and this is all we have guaranteed. So I know that I have made a lot of flips in my life, and I have not regretted a single one of them. They've all in one way steered me or helped me refine or grew me or changed me as a human or taught me new things. It's not a dead-end road, and it's not for nothing.
Hey you, Jenny Dempsey here, your host of the Career Flipper podcast. I've got a random question for you today. Do you like granola? I love granola, especially if there's dark chocolate involved, but have you ever wondered what making and selling granola could teach you about business pursuits, such as running a marketing agency? See, told you, random question. Today, our guest Sally Mildren, joining us from her home in New Mexico, shares her journey from a burnt-out brain injury therapist to becoming the CEO of her own marketing agency and everything in between, including granola. You'll see how it all connects. She opens up about dealing with controlling bosses, navigating multiple layoffs, and why taking risks and chasing your dreams are essential. Oh, and a personal heads up. You might notice that the audio sounds like I was recording from inside a tin can. Hey, I'm new to this podcasting world and I'm learning as I go. But I've upgraded to a new mic now, so expect clearer sound moving forward. Thanks for sticking with me through the learning curve. On that note, let's get into the episode with Sally.
Sally, thank you so much for joining me. This is awesome to have you here.
I'd love to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So I want to hear all about it. I know you have had a very unique and interesting career, and I am excited to have you share it. So tell me your career flip story. Where'd you start? Where'd you end up? And all the things in between.
Well, I may have the ultimate career flip because I started as a brain injury therapist. Now I am the CEO of a marketing and customer experience agency, which is like a whoop. Yeah. There's no way those two connect. But I think that the real marketing flip for me came when I was working for a boss in marketing that was just not working. Super controlling, super micromanaging. It just wasn't working and I needed out. It was crushing who I was as a human. And so I decided to make a shift and quit that job. And that was when I started my first side gig business, which at the time, a lot of years ago, was gift baskets, which is insane also. I made a go of it. And after about a year, we ended up moving. And I even had articles in the local newspaper. They sent a photographer to my house. I had lots of clients we were doing really creative and unique things for businesses to get a foot in the door or as thank yous to their clients. But what was interesting was after about a year, I flipped back because it, financially wasn't panning out. Gift baskets were very hard to compete against Costco. Right. Or against, baskets started showing up everywhere from Walmart to whatever. I went back into the work field at that point and worked in marketing for many more years. And then at some point, I also felt like I was part of a layoff of a big system, which I know a lot of people can relate to now. Yep. And you're kind of faced with this, okay, I have a few weeks of unemployment and what am I going to do with myself? And for me, I was 50 at that point, 50 in a very tech heavy state of Washington near Seattle, where Amazon and Microsoft and all that was ancient. I even had one young guy who was interviewing me at a company say, yeah, well, people your age miss work all the time because they're sick and, older people are out. I was like, oh, no. So I told him, I said, let me give you a little advice, honey. Yeah. Don't ever say that again. You're going to open yourself up to a lawsuit. But also, I'm done with the kids' age. I don't have wine flu every Monday. I'm not, whatever. But anyways, it was very difficult to find a job. And I began to really kind of evaluate what am I going to do? I was in probably the prime of my career and doing the best work of my career, having huge results for Fortune 50 companies, and I wasn't done. So, for me, I started my consultancy, Boss Lady Consulting, to begin to help small business owners and other businesses to take advantage of my years and years and years of experience and how to really help them self-grow. And I was learning that for myself at the same time, promoting my business and finding new clients. And so it was a huge jump. And financially, I could do it because my husband had a really secure job. So it's not necessarily a jump that anybody can just go from zero to full time. A lot of folks build it up on the side, like a little side hustle thing. I didn't have that liberty, and I could not find a job. So I started it on the side. I ended up getting a job again for about a year and a half, and then was a layoff during COVID because they got rid of about 80% of their staff. And that's when I said, okay, forget it. I'm not going to put my future in the hands of anybody else. I'm going to be the boss of me. And I went all in on the consulting, and it will be 4 years this fall.
That's a lot of flips in there. When you talk, a couple of things pop into my mind, Sally, like these, moving from one industry to another. Imposter syndrome can sometimes come up. Like that could be really, like there's imposter syndrome, but there's also like fear. And so I'm wondering, did those ever get in your way? Like were there times where you're like, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to, I don't know. Did anything come up for you around this? And how'd you work through them?
What's interesting is a little flip I skipped, which ironically, I was a gymnast for years and years. So there's a lot of flipping in here. During that layoff period where I couldn't find a job, I set up a little commerce business called the Polka Dot Farmer. And I sold food, farm, and frou-frou. We lived on a little farm that had blueberries. So I made blueberry hand pies and homemade granola and popcorn. And I made crafts and framed things and all wreaths and all kinds of things. And I sold them at the farmer's market every Thursday to just make ends meet, but also to keep alive the creative need in me, because it's very easy to, yes, fear, yes, imposter syndrome, but also, yes, just really profound discouragement to not, when you go through a layoff, it's hard to not take that personal and to start then second guessing all the talents and all of the richness that you bring to the table. And so I think for me, keeping any kind of activity that kept the gifts and the talents I had alive was essential. And this setting up a polka dot farmer, I had goats and chickens and blueberry farm, and I did my thing with branding. And I had people driving from all over the Seattle area to come get my granola. It was the best they've ever had. And so in a very small way, it kept my skills sharp while I was finding my next it. It showed me that I'm really good at this because I could set up a business from scratch. I had an e-commerce business. I had an in-person business. And so it was really fun to do. So I think that for me, dealing with the fear and kind of that self-doubt, one of the things that was vital was just to prove with evidence, review the evidence from the past, but prove with evidence now that I have what it takes to make this work. It's like, just find the things that you can do that demonstrate to yourself that, yes, you are good at this. And yes, you do know, and no, you're not crazy. And then in the terms of the fear of flipping or going for it, I have a business coach that said something to me that has changed my life. She said, okay, when you start doing that what if game and you're like, oh my God, what if? She said, play that all the way out. Okay. So what if it doesn't work out? You'll get another job. Okay. What if you can't find a job that you love? Okay. You could work at Target for a little while. What if you lose money at it? Okay. You will sell something or, get a side gig or start writing. And she had me begin to play out all of those what if scenarios. And when you chased it all the way to the end, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die and have to be buried. It was, oh, I might lose a little bit of money, or maybe I will embarrass myself, or maybe I will, whatever. But the consequences of chasing those what ifs all the way out were rarely something so tragic and dramatic as I was afraid of. And it made it go, oh, okay, I could jump. I could do this and I'll try it and I'll give myself 6 months. And if I need to go get a side gig waiting tables on the weekend to make tips for a minute, I will. Or I could, take a different job. And so I think that that's the thing for me that really helped with the fear of the situation. I think I struggled at that time with self-doubt more than imposter syndrome. As a CEO of a marketing company, imposter syndrome comes in waves.
All the things that you've tried, especially, making granola and people coming from all over and knowing that you can try different things and it doesn't necessarily have to be what you do forever and ever. I think
exactly.
I've talked to people and even myself included, I'm like, oh, well, this is what I've done for X amount of years. So that's all I'm going to do forever. And it's like, wait, no. Like, it's okay to try these things and creative pursuits and like enjoy it. How do you find time to still be that creative side of yourself?
It comes down to just being very intentional about my commitments, particularly when we go off on our own thing. It's too easy to put yourself behind the business. And yet when we don't nurture and honor our own physical biology first, water, you've got to move, you need to eat well, you need to get some sleep. When we put all of that on the back burner, which I did working for corporate, so busy, so much to do, so I quit going to the gym in the morning at 5. That was the beginning of the end. It's like this downhill slide of stress. I wasn't taking care of my body. I was working earlier and longer. And there comes a point where I realized if I can't keep the promises to myself, I can't expect anybody else to. And so it became this commitment to myself to say, I have to be very intentional about making time to be creative. Last week, for instance, on Tuesday, I took a little block of time off of my schedule and I told the team I wasn't available and I made candles, which is something I learned for that polka dot farmer. But I can't find candles that I love more than my black oak and currant candles. So that's the ones I will make and use around my house or give to friends or family. And so it doesn't have to be, weeks of vacation. This weekend during the long weekend, I told Tim, I said, I need to read for a little bit this weekend. And he's like, okay. But then I got something and inspired me. I sat down. I've been working on a book. I wrote the whole introduction out in one setting and I love it. I read a quote yesterday actually that said, put yourself around people who think your next big idea is a guaranteed success story. You need those kind of people in your corner when you're doing a flip. I mean, there are a lot of people who will be happy to give you advice that this isn't a good idea or it won't make money or what are you thinking? But you have to know in your own gut, I'm going to give this a go. And if it doesn't work, no harm, no foul. My polka dot farmer didn't sustain. We moved away from the farm ultimately, but you have to know there's something in you that is saying, yes, do this thing. And the difference between a whim kind of and a, oh my gosh, this is something I need to do. This podcast for you. You need to do this. It came to you profoundly, personally, specifically, and you got to make this happen. You have to have people around you that are going to say, you know what? I might not understand it, but I am in your corner and cheering for you.
It's so true. It's so true. It came to me in a dream and I felt like, am I like going delusional at this point? And I think it gets to that moment where you're like, maybe there is a little bit of that delusion in there, but in order to like dream bigger and actually make things come to life, you need a little bit of that because that it hasn't necessarily come to fruition yet, but it is on the way and it's happening. Like the actions are making it. I was talking to someone recently too, and they were mentioning like, I think every entrepreneur is a little delusional because building something that hasn't happened yet, but believing in it so fiercely and knowing that, this is going to be something and not letting society or, whatever it is, whether it's about age or experience or things that we have dreamed about in the past and never made happen, but like now suddenly we are, and like just comparing ourselves to others and letting that go. The self-doubt, which you brought up, like, whoo, it's hard to navigate through, especially in those moments when you're like, I got no money in my bank account. I'm trying to figure this out. I have this big dream and I believe in it. But yet every society is saying like, you need to just get a job and it doesn't matter if you like it or not. But I love how you kind of weave in, like sometimes you'll, go work at Target, go work at the restaurant, go do this for a little bit, pop around and do it because it's going to lead you to the next step of what you've been envisioning for yourself, not settling for the cringy boss who's destroying your soul and not feeling you have to be stuck in that and complaining and turning into a very grumpy, sad person and living a life that's not fulfilling.
And I think there's just nothing sadder to me. I've seen it in my own family, and certainly the boomer generation, the older generations lived like this, where they did work they hated for a someday. And I frankly am just not willing to trade happiness today for a someday. And so for me, I've made some jumps that people think we're stupid. They think we're crazy. Some people in my family call me vagabond or something because when it hasn't worked out in a certain location, we have collectively looked and decided and prayed and found out what our next it was. And we have not been afraid to make a change. But that came after years and years and years and years of being afraid and being stuck in an environment that was oppressive to us. And so for me, I think it's seeing the freedom of owning your own agency, meaning your own choice. You have agency over your life. If this thing is something that you want to try and you're too afraid to quit your job, then start it on the side. That's fine. If you think this is it, and you can make it work, then try it. Why not? I mean, what do you have to lose? Usually a little bit of pride, but it's rarely as big of a deal as of a hairy monster that we make it because of fear. But I also am feisty enough after living a lot of life to not allow the constructs and the expectation of cultural norms decide what I can and can't do. I don't care what you think. It took me a while to get there, but I don't care what you think.
I think I might have told you the story of my dad. Like, he worked so hard his whole life. I didn't really get to know him. And he was always working so hard to save for that retirement. Save for it. And then he retires. And a year after he retires, he falls down, breaks his neck, and then eventually passes away. But right before he passed away, he told me on his deathbed, I wish that I wouldn't have worked so much because I would have, there was so much more. It was heartbreaking. This was the chance. And here you realized it. And it really has stuck with me about these types of decisions.
Story is so common. I mean, honestly, I can't tell you the number of people I know who had a heart attack 2 weeks after retiring, or whatever. It's so common. And I think for listeners or people who want to jump or flip, I just feel like life is now. There's no guarantee. That doesn't mean be foolish and don't plan anything. It means don't put off your life. Don't wait on something else to really live or follow your dreams or do the thing you want. Life is today, and this is all we have guaranteed. So I know that I have made a lot of flips in my life, and I have not regretted a single one of them. They've all in one way steered me or helped me refine or grew me or changed me as a human or taught me new things. Even when I went back into the workforce, the things that I learned from a go at entrepreneurship made me a better marketer.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there's just no reason not to. I know I'm bold because I've been there, done that, but I really feel like it's just no reason not to. If it's in your heart to try, then find a way. Do 1 day a week farmer's market on Saturday when you're not at work. Test the market. Find out how your product is, what people say. It's not a dead end road, and it's not for nothing.
Just hearing you say that and, giving it a go and trying it, and it doesn't have to be perfect. I think that's another thing. Like some of these things, maybe you don't have certification or you didn't go to school for this or you haven't worked in the industry for over 10 years. Maybe there's something there that you're comparing yourself to that's completely irrelevant, but you're holding yourself to these standards that aren't real. Kathy Heller always says, take the messy action. And I actually have a Post-it note on my computer with that because it doesn't have to be perfect to give it a try and just see.
My very first gift basket job I did was 250 baskets for a convention at a Westin. And it was in Arizona. So I thought, oh, I'll be cute. And a basket was a straw cowboy hat, put in the Arizona iced teas and a bandana and a little, I thought, oh, I'll be super cute. And I had little baby saguaros put in there and, you know, all the things. Well, when it came to having to deliver those, you can't like stack them into boxes. So I had to rent a huge truck and there were 250 individual baskets. It was a nightmare for the hotel. They had to fill a whole meeting room with them and the saguaro dirt dumped all over. It was a nightmare, but I learned a lot from that lesson. And okay, no live plants. That's not a good idea. But I also learned something about different shrink wrap. And I also learned about, okay, now it's not just about designing an adorable basket. It's about portability of it, the ability to deliver, all that kind of stuff. And so at the end of the day, I had to redo a few baskets, which big deal. You know, to have a 250 basket order first was great. But that messy action taught me a whole lot about future orders. And I was able to change my process just like you would on a marketing campaign that fell flat or something. It's like, oh, yeah, we need to go back and make some adjustments. It didn't mean the entire team got fired after one bad campaign, but somehow when it's our thing, we put such monstrous expectations on it that, oh, this means I'm a total loser and I'll never make success. But it's no different than making course adjustments in whatever professional field you're in.
That's, you would never have known how to make those improvements had you not done that. It's so valuable. All of these things are so incredibly valuable.
Each step was a lesson for me. There's a lot of people that have a layoff or a firing or a quit, whatever, that can remember only the offense of it, if you will. You know, certainly there's an emotional trauma to any sudden abruption of, you know, work. I feel like I'm really proud of the fact that I can look at those things, the good and bad leaders I've been under, and have drawn inspiration to be a better human and a better leader myself. And I feel like that ultimately is what makes our agency and the work we do so powerful for the clients we serve, is because we haven't severed our humanity from the work we do. It's not just going through the motions. My agency is very core value centric and very human centric by design and by the lessons I brought through life. And so for me, I think I'm really proud of that. One of the things that stands out the most about my business is our core values, and people see it. It's not just words. They feel it and they experience it when they work with us or for our clients. And so that's pride for me.
You do amazing work, and I'm continuously inspired by you. I know I sound like a broken record. Thank you so much. I tell how can people find you? People can connect with you. They might want to reach out and ask questions or work with you. How can they find you?
Boss Lady Consulting is my agency. We're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Personal profile, Sally Mildren. I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah, do connect out there because I have a book about all the things I've been talking about coming out very soon. So it's about being a human-centric leader and really taking the lessons of life to help mentor younger leaders.
I'm so excited for your book. Congratulations on getting that written and for momentum on that. I'm so excited.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Career Flipper. Make sure to connect with Sally using the links in the show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, which I really hope you did, please share it with a friend who could use some inspiration. Leave a review and hit the subscribe button for more flippin' stories like Sally's every Thursday. Your support helps me reach more career flippers and future flippers to be, spreading the love, support, and motivation we all need on this journey. To connect with me, just head over to thecareerflipper.com. Keep on your path, my friend. What's the best that could happen? Talk to you next week.